Hey there, welcome back to Raleigh City Farm. This video is going to be all about building beds in the high tunnel. So hopefully you guys saw the last video. We had a big work day, a lot of volunteers came, and we cleared out the whole high tunnel, and man, it looks great. There really isn't much growing in here, and partly the reason of that is that there's not much moisture in here, but we tried to hand pull as much of the grasses and weeds that were in here, so we have a good start. Now what I've done since then is I just came through here with some rakes and the tilther just to kind of smoothen it out a bit, and I think it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So what I'm going to do today is I am going to measure out the beds, stake them, put the stakes in the ground for the bed markers, and then we'll go from there. Later in the week we're going to be building beds, and I'll talk more about that in a second. So I really want to record and document as much of the process here as possible. I think it's going to be helpful information for all you guys, and you guys can follow along and watch the transformation here at Raleigh City Farm. It's going to be super cool. And let's talk about beds for a second. Now, I've been thinking a lot about the bed width and walkway width for this farm, and you know, the standard is 30 inches for a market garden. That's pretty much what most people do, and I think I really wanted to go a little bit larger. I think 36 in my opinion might be like the sweet spot, but with more thought process here is that, you know, we're building permanent beds, and so this is a big decision, and I got to think about what the farm is going to be for the next few years and then beyond, because no one should be building beds after you sort of set them up if you do it right. And so we're gonna go with 30-inch beds, and the reason for that is this is really gonna be a volunteer farm and a teaching farm, and I think ergonomically a 30-inch bed works a little bit better than a 36-inch bed. 36-inch bed is hard to straddle, especially if you're a little bit shorter, and I think it just makes it easy to reach in and stuff like that. So in terms of walkways, at Satin Hill Farm I had 14-inch walkways, and that was just, I think, just about perfect. You could still turn your feet sideways, you could put down a harvest bin. It was tight, but it wasn't awkward. But because, again, context here is important, I'm going to be doing 18-inch walkways, and I know that's like, in some ways that's a lot of wasted growing space, but I think for the reality of the people that are going to be working here and the activities here, I think it's going to make a lot of sense. So this tunnel here is just over 24 feet wide on the inside, and 60 feet long. So we're going to put 6 50-foot beds in here that are 30 inches wide, again 18-inch walkways. We're going to leave a few feet in the front, and then behind me here towards the back, that's the north side. This is oriented north-south. We're going to put probably some pallets back there, or some sort of setup for a nursery so we can do our starts in the back there, and that won't be blocking the light as the light comes in from the south. So that's the general setup here. Alright, so I get this question asked a lot about how I set up my beds to start with. In this case it's pretty easy because I already have the rectangle of the tunnel already set up, but if you're in a field, what you do is set up roughly where you're supposed to be and then measure the diagonals, and if the diagonals are both the same length, then you know you have a rectangle, and so that way you know that it's square in the corners. But here I'm just going with the outside of the tunnel, and so what I did to start here to get a really straight line is I just measured 4 feet in from either side, and I chose 4 feet because it just made sense for generally with a wheelbarrow, like to be able to get in it and get around to each bed, and so that's why I chose that. And so I set posts on either side at 4 feet. I run a string line across, and then I take a tape measure next to it and just drive in the stakes at the right places, and just with the front edge lined up with that string, so I get a nice straight line. And these bed stakes will just stay in the ground all the time, so that every time we flip a bed we can run a string line and keep it nice and straight. I just got them at Home Depot. They're just wooden stakes. They sell them. They're super inexpensive. They do break down after a while, but you can just replace them. They're very, very easy to put in, and they're very cheap. So here we go. We got 6 beds, again 30-inch beds, 18-inch walkways, and we did have a little bit of space on either side. It's about a foot, maybe a little bit over, and we'll use that as just a little bit of extra space, and you'll be able to walk there too if you need to. All right, so it's a few days later, and you guys can see there might be something weird in this video. We got no plastic up on the top of the tunnel. So we had some really severe weather roll through yesterday, and you know, last night and through the morning, and yeah, it just took the plastic off. It was really just, I don't know, it's a combination of things, but it just wasn't very well attached on the sides, and it is what it is. This is farming, right? As I said, this is very extreme weather that rolled through, and it is pretty windy today too. But today, one of the first things that I want to do is address another issue which I was concerned about, and it's always a good time to observe your farm or your property when it's raining. You can really see where the water goes, and so I had a concern here about drainage along the side of the tunnel, and that has been very clear here because you'll be able to see that there's a channel that ran through here. We got some washouts. So anytime you have a structure, you know, it's going to shed a lot of water, you want to make sure you have a place for the water to go. And if it doesn't have a place to go, it's going to wind up in your tunnel or somewhere that you don't want to. So this is definitely something I was concerned about before, and now that it rained heavily, we got to see the damage that it you know, caused. And so Rob and Gina over here, they're digging a sort of a trench along the side of the tunnel here, and that's going to direct the water down and around the tunnel. And we're going to clean up the plastic, and then after that we'll get to building our beds later. And luckily we don't have any crops in the ground, so even with a couple of cold nights coming up, you know, we're not going to stress about it. But it does set us back a little bit, but you know, we'll push through it. So I just want to show you guys the water that sort of ran into the tunnel from not having proper drainage, and this is all just soaking wet here, much wetter than everything else. And you can see as I walk down this way, you can see the runoff here. So you could see that the water was just rushing through here. So that's what we have to address. And right now, you can see that Rob and Gene are digging this trench. So hopefully this will take the water off the tunnel and bring it down and around the tunnel this way. So even with the plastic off the tunnel, I think we're still going to build beds. We have a couple volunteers here today, and we just want to get it done. So I want to talk a little bit about strategy and some of the things that we've done. First thing is we got a soil sample done, and that test was done through Logan Labs. I'll leave a link down below. Not affiliated with them, but I just know a lot of people have had good luck with them. You can also get a soil test done with your local extension, and so I'm going to be sending a sample of some other stuff over there too to get it checked out and just, you know, use that service as well. So one thing to note about our soil here is that the pH is really high, and we're going to address that by using sulfur, because also the sulfur is really low. So what I did was I had my sample analyzed by my friends over at Country Farm and Home, and they gave me some great advice, and so that's what we're going to do. So the steps we're going to do here is we're going to broad fork the beds first. We're going to lay down the sulfur, we're going to rake it in. We're going to do a lasagna style, so we're going to do cardboard, we're going to wet it down, and then we're going to put compost on top. So that's the style. Now you don't have to use cardboard if you have other carbon materials nearby, like you could use straw, you could use leaves, you could use all sorts of things. You can also do multiple layers if you want as well, but we're just going to do that. We're going to try to keep it really simple and try to get these beds built, and then we'll put the wood chips in the walkways. But let's talk about broad forking first, because there's a couple of nuances to it, and I just want to show you that. But so this is the broad fork that I have. It's not my favorite, but it's just very light duty, and I bent the tines a lot. But when you do this, and this is literally the first time this has been broad forked, at least in a long time, is you want to rock it back and forth till you get it down, and then pull it up. And then you want to pull it up just enough to the point where the ground starts to crack. You don't want to like really do it like that. Just enough where it cracks. Pull it straight back and down. And again, this is the first time, so it's rather tough to rock it back and forth, pop it back, and I just like to work backwards. So we're going to do that for all the beds here and go ahead with the other steps. All right, got the broad forking done, and it went pretty well. And then now we're going to put down the sulfur, the elemental sulfur, and I'm just going to spread it with, you know, one of these lawn spreader things, and then we'll start doing cardboard. All right, so we're a little short on cardboard, actually a lot short on cardboard, but we're going to hopefully source some more. So we got some of this covered here, and we got string lines set up. And we're watering it down before we start laying down compost and wood chips. So the rain's been in and out today, so I haven't been able to keep the camera out, but I just want to show you guys the ditch that we dug here. Did an amazing job. I think this is going to be great. We might put some gravel in here, maybe a French drain, I'm not sure, but we're going to keep this open so that the water can run out and away from the tunnel. But really strong work. And inside the tunnel, you can see where we're at right now. We got sort of 2 beds done. We're doing compost for the beds and wood chips in the walkways. So we got the bed over there, that's all done. We got this guy here, but we're out of cardboard, so we're just gonna keep plugging away. All right, so we've been pushing through. We've got a lot done so far. Our big bottleneck has been just not enough cardboard, so we've been making runs out to local places, try to pick up as much cardboard as we can, and we are almost done. You guys can see we got 5 out of the 6 beds done. So yeah, it's looking great. We'll have this done later this afternoon. So everything's coming along nicely. Hey, so we just finished up working today, been dodging raid drops all day, so it's been hard to film, but yeah, check it out. Bam, got it done. 6 beds in here, all wood chipped. And so I'm really excited. We had another great group, small group of volunteers today that did a fantastic job. And I'm really excited. So just after this video comes out, I'm gonna be heading to San Diego for the No-Till Growers Workshop with Jared Smith of Jared's Real Food and Stephen Cornett of Nature's Always Right. And I'm super excited to meet with them and see their presentations and learn all about lasagna beds. And this is a very simple lasagna setup with cardboard and compost, but Jared's got a very large farm with all this kind of stuff going on in a lot of different systems, so I'm really excited to check that out. I'm also going to be visiting with a couple other farms and some other neat stuff, so a lot of cool content coming out in the next few weeks. I'm really excited about that. But guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.